Hi, this is Tom Liversidge as part of Tap the Table Productions interviews for the Flash Theatre Festival, and I'm here with
Stephen Leonard,
who's from Rising Persona Theatre Company. How are you, Stephen?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, not too bad. And how's your day going so far?
Very stressful, just running around getting set, getting everything ready for the show.
Yeah, you said you were buying a sword this morning and an awful spirit level.
Yeah, I don't want tables to be wonky. So.
Oh, fair enough. Make sure it's all level. Now, your production is Vallence Road.
Right.
Now, how's the process going for you so far? Just a little bit how you're finding creating your own show as a one-man theatre company.
At times it's really rewarding because you've got no one to say otherwise of what you're doing. But at times it sort of works both ways. You've got no one to bounce ideas off, and it can get really demanding because you're by yourself. You seem to struggle for help at times, but I find that the aspect of being just so rewarding to do by yourself that the rest of it just falls into place naturally at times with the show. And that, because I've had help from real life characters in Reggie Kray's life, let's say his widow, and she's been really supportive, Roberta Kray, and she sort of egged me on to carry on and push as far as I can, really. So
you start talking about Reggie Kray there.
Yeah.
Can you allude a little bit as to why that is?
Well, the show's based on his life, not just the media portrayal, but the human side. Because I feel that Reggie Kray's life has been sort of mediaised so much that it sort of takes him away from a human aspect of himself. But we need to. I think people don't realise that he was a family man. He was a husband, he was a brother, a very caring person, and helped a lot of charities out, which people don't realise. They only see the sort of bad things that he did to bad people, and I think that sort of vilified him a little bit.
So even though he was sort of considered to be a criminal, why did you want to bring this other side to public knowledge maybe a little bit more?
Because I feel that us as people in general, we focus more so on the bad things in life, and they at times overshadow the good that people do. But yes, Reggie Kray and the Kray firm did do a lot of bad things, but to only focus on the bad things, like no one knows about the 11-year-old boy born in Codsall who was run over, that they helped for 2 years to gain funding for. They used their own money, made charity events, which the likes of Barbara Windsor and big name fighters like Joe Louis turned up to. No one knows about that because that was shoved aside to bring in some of the bad aspects of his life.
Well, it sounds like you've got a few stories in terms of these good things, good deeds that they've happened. Now, how have you gone about, and where have you sourced perhaps some of those examples?
A lot of it's through autobiographies from Reggie Kray himself and his widow Roberta Kray, who he married 2000.
You said you were in contact with.
Yes, because she's a crime fiction novelist, I think that's the right word. And through publishers, I ended up getting her email address.
Yeah.
And then she got in touch with her, and she sent me a copy of her own book, which she signed, which is really nice.
Signed, put it on eBay after the show.
She signed, and she sent me a copy of some VHSs that were not very readily available for people to buy, of funerals and other events. And I just sort of used that knowledge and sort of created a script that I thought was quite worthy. Hopefully worthy.
So, we've heard a little bit about the sort of show and what it's about. Now, the show's called Vallence Road.
Yeah.
Where's that name from? I presume it's something to do with Reggie Kray.
Yeah, that's the street that they were brought up on.
That's the street they were brought up on.
Yeah.
I thought that might
be. The house by the friends and family was called Fort Vallence because it was like a fortress for them to do whatever they wanted. And the mother Violet would always help and protect anybody. Apparently, she was a saint of a woman in everyone's eyes that met her. And the house was just known as Fort Valence. I thought Vallence Road was there.
Vallence Road. Apt. Well, very apt. Now, in terms of the actual, going back a bit more to the process that you've been through itself, we've heard that you've gathered all this material together regarding the Krays, and you mentioned that you've put it into a script. Is there any element of sort of devising behind what you've done, or is it purely pen on paper with the information that you've been given?
Well, my personal feeling is I can't write about something that have never experienced. So I locked myself in a basement for a few days.
And why did you do that?
Because one of the prisons he was in, I think it was Wandsworth Prison, he was only allowed an hour worth of like fresh air time to go out of his cell. It was 23 hours he was locked in his cell. So I went, and if you're in solitary confinement, that's however many hours they choose by yourself in just a hole of a room. So I found a dark, dingy basement that one of my friends lived above, and bought all the necessities, food that the girls above had to cook for me at specific times of the day, which is 3 meals a day. And I lived in a basement. It was meant to be for 4 days, but I only managed 34 hours because it was mentally straining. I was very optimistic about the whole project, but as soon as the door locked and I knew I wasn't coming out, that's when everything started to change for me.
Did you take any means of entertainment down there?
The only entertainment I had was a book, pen and paper, and I went and brought the same radio that Reggie Kray had in his cell. For the first 24 hours, I couldn't get that to work. So for the next 13, 14 hours, it worked a treat, and that was the only entertainment I had down there.
And what are the biggest things that you took away from that experience? Because that sounds like it's getting along the lines of very method there. You like Daniel Day-Lewis style stuff.
Thank you. It's the feeling that you'll never. One of the thoughts that went through my head towards the end was the feeling that everyone had just left me, and that I wasn't coming out, and I was going to be here for the long haul. Even though I was going to, the idea was to spend a minimum of 4 days, maximum of 10. The idea that 10 days was just too far away, even 4 days was just too far away, and just the idea that a few times I went to grab my phone to text somebody. The first person I went to text was my mom to see if she'd tell her I was okay. When I went to grab my phone, obviously my phone wasn't there, and it was just the idea that I went from living from meal to meal because I didn't know what time of day it was at times, and just going from meal to meal and understand that you are completely alone and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't talk to the people coming to open the door to give you food because I couldn't see them, and it was it nearly brought me to tears just to know that there's nothing around that can help me. I've done this to myself.
Exactly,
and I've got to accept the consequences of it.
Yeah, that is your world. Did you start counting bricks at any point?
No, but I did count the spiders.
Did you count spiders? Did you get to double figures?
Yes. At one point, I thought I'd sleep some of the day off, and I thought I slept for hours, but I only slept for half an hour at one point.
Wow.
And I woke up with spiders all over my face.
Dear me. And so you took that experience along with these VHSs that you've had from Reggie's Widow and other things. How did you use them to then create the script? Is a lot of it verbatim at all?
A lot of it is taken from his book Born Fighter, his actual stories that he was saying. And I've taken that and sort of expanded on some of them.
Yeah.
There is a bit of artistic license gone into some of the things.
Yeah.
Like he mentions in one part that he'd received letters from his brother while his brother was locked up and he was out, because he was certified insane, and he went to Maidstone, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he received letters from him and saying that never get yourself in a straitjacket because they're really uncomfortable, especially if you're on a scratch. And so things like that I've gone in with a bit of artistic license to pad them out a little bit, but I think it reads as much to a realistic story as anyone will ever know.
So your process more is about creating a script, and then you go from there, rather than the sort of devising process that I know a lot of groups that we've been speaking to have been. I
think for me it went hand in hand. For parts, I had to experience something to write about. So for the being in a cell, I had to experience that to write about it.
Yeah.
I could read as many books about him on that aspect of his life, but to experience it brings everything to life more, I feel.
Yeah.
So for parts it was a case of reading it and then elaborating more. For other parts it was reading it, then doing it and feeling it to be able to write about it.
Now, something I'm really interested in is that Reggie Kray as a person is very specific, given the line that other groups have been going down. They're focusing on maybe a theme or a subject. You're focusing on a person.
Yeah.
What first actually attracted you to the possibility or the idea of doing a play regarding him?
Well, it came about a couple of years ago when a friend of mine told me to watch The Krays with the Spandau Ballet Brothers in Kemps, and I've always had a thing for, I don't know, from an early age I always wanted to read about gangsters.
Yeah. Well, gangsters are cool. When
when I was a kid.
I mean.
So the Richardsons, and not so much a gangster, but Charles Bronson. I think it's a very interesting story there.
Yes, well.
And the fact that recently Tom Hardy might be playing both the Kray twins in a new film, hopefully.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that as well, that sort of came up when I was researching. But like the Kray twins and the Kray legacy, sort of, everyone feels died out in 2000, but they're still, even today, being recognised. They're all in the papers still. Like a week or two ago, letters that Reggie Kray wrote to his first wife Frances while he was in prison were being auctioned off, and they were £3,000 to £30,000 from the letters. And I think it's something that I think we as people in this world and this country should know. I think we should know the country's history.
Yeah.
Not many people living in, like I don't live in the East End, I'm from the Midlands, but I know a little bit about the East End now. And I don't think maybe people who live in the East End know about its past. And I feel that we should all know our past and where we're from. And I just think Reggie Kray has a story. I've always thought he had a story that sort of tells his life and his experiences in a way that's really interesting for us to get behind. Like I've got a brother as well, and some of the things that he says in his book relates to me and my brother. I mean, me and my brother, we argue a lot, but we love each other to death, and I'd do anything for him.
Yeah.
And it's sort of goes along that line as well. That he'd do anything for his brother, and I think that's sort of like a blood brothers sort of thing when you find out it's your brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Die for him.
Now, something that we've seen on the Flash website, or that I've seen on the Flash website, is your use of physical, visual, and technical elements in the actual show. Would you like to allude a little bit more as to what way that affects your show, how it's involved?
Yeah, I've got to, in my opinion, I need to show that there's more than one person on stage other than me. And I feel with these, especially
because to clarify, you are the only person that's in this play.
Yes. So I need to show that there's other people on stage other than just me. So I feel that without using voiceovers or a lot of video recordings, I can do it through other technical. Without giving too much away, with other technical elements.
Yeah. By all means, don't give too much away. Just as much as you want.
So using different technical elements, I feel I can show that there's more than one person on stage. Mainly so, he mentions a lot in his book, and I think I've said it a few times, that the twins were inseparable. They loved each other, and I need to show that. I personally feel that I need to show that love that they had between each other with just me on stage. And I feel that using these technical aspects, the physical comes from that. I'm going to be tired at the end of it. It's going to be a lot of physical. But things like murder, how am I going to show me killing another man, which I will show, because he's famously for murdering Jack the Hat McVitie. I need to show that as a one-man show. So through these, through physical actions and physical sort of statements, I'll show that side of it as well.
And are you purely playing Reggie Kray, or are you playing
every now and again I will sort of slip into one character, but I am predominantly Reggie Kray. I took a lot of the idea came from, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, there's a play written by Herbert Mitgang called Mr. Lincoln.
No, I haven't.
And it was at the Ford's Theatre in Washington where Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed. They did they do something every few years about playing a big figure in America, and Roy Daltrey, the British actor, went over and played Abraham Lincoln. And it's just a full stage with a full set, but each part of the stage, represents a different part of his life, and it represents different areas that he would have visited, like the courthouse, his first law firm, and he's the only one on stage. But every now and again, he will do a few sentences to show other people in his life. And when I came up with the idea to do Vallence Road, I went gung-ho with it when I had the idea, but didn't know where to take it. And reading this play and watching this on YouTube gave a lot of ideas to me of how I can set up a play, and that people are doing one-man shows that aren't solely based on postmodernism, and they are just straight acting using different techniques that they will have learned. And it was a very big eye-opener for me that a person can actually do that with a lot. I just recommend watching it. I remember watching it and it just bought me. I was like, it's just amazing.
So that play and that particular performance as well sounds like it was a big influence on the actual show itself. Is there any other influences that you've had from the show, whether it be other one-man companies, whether it be other performances, whether it be techniques, anything else?
Another influence, Kurt Russell did a film, I think he was in '79, I'm not too sure, about Elvis Presley. And many people don't know this, but Elvis Presley was a twin.
Yeah, I know. His twin died, didn't he?
Yeah. And there's a scene in that where he's talking to his twin, but his twin's not there. And that plays a lot on in my show, Vallence Road, where I'm talking to Ron. Ron's not there, but there's a way that I'm talking to him that shows that he's there. And just don't watch the film before you see the show, because then you'll know exactly why.
Watch the show first.
Yes.
Right, so now, again, I'm a bit more interested to look into the one-man theatre company thing a little bit. You were talking a bit earlier about your experiences with how, because I've never been in one. I felt like I have before at a certain time, but as you say, you've got no one to bounce off with that one-man theatre company thing. How do you go about sort of getting verification for your ideas in that way? And do you check with people to see, do you think this will work? Do you get...
Well, if people are available, I ask for very overly critical advice. But I think mostly for me so far, it's been it's about being that actor and the director. I feel you need to be able to be overcritical with yourself and really take a step back and properly judge it in your head of how it's going, and be able to do that thing of killing your own babies with your ideas.
Yeah, exactly right.
Like, I've had a few ideas in my head at the time I thought were absolutely amazing, put them into practice and they flop and no good. So I've had to cut a lot of ideas that I originally thought were really good, but turned out, because of the capacity of the show and maybe myself, didn't work very well. But I feel that if you can be overly critical of yourself, then you technically don't need anybody else. But it's always good to have people.
Yeah,
to bounce off.
So I'm just interested in the thing of trying to detach yourself from it, take a step back. Whereas it's difficult to take a step back when you're the person that's meant to be on stage as well.
Yes. Another thing I've tried doing is video recording everything.
Oh, okay. So
just set up it so you can see the whole thing, perform 15 to 20 minutes of something, and then rewatch it. And if I don't like it, I can always change it to the early stages still.
By all means. Oh yeah, well how far through are you sort of?
The script's been finalised, and it's just a case of blocking it all out now.
Yeah.
And then fingers crossed nothing goes wrong.
Well, I'm sure you'll be alright. You seem very organised with your spirit levels and things that we've got with you. Now, there's one question that we've been asking in every interview. Unfortunately, my colleague Wayne isn't here to ask it, so I'll have to take over the duties today. Now, if you were to describe your show in either one word or in one sentence, how would you do so? How would you describe it?
I'd say it's realistic.
As a single word, realistic?
Probably should add that. It's a realistic portrayal of a human person.
A realistic portrayal of a human person. Lovely. You should put that on the bottom of the post.
Yeah.
Definitely put that on the bottom
People
of the
would read them like, what? Crazy.
Now, we've talked a lot about all the production side of things, your process and the background to the Reggie Kray and things, but now let's talk a little bit about actually where people can go and see this show and where it's going to be on. So correct me if I say anything that's wrong, but you're going to be performing Vallence Road, firstly on Thursday the 15th of May at 3 p.m.
That's right.
Secondly, at Friday the 16th at 10 a.m. So get up early on a Friday for that one. and also finally on Saturday the 17th of May at 6 p.m. And where can people go and see this?
At the Royal and Gate, the Underground 1 and 2.
And where are they able to get tickets from for your show?
On the Flash Theatre website, Vallence Road, or you can phone up on the Royal and Gate box office, say Vallence Road or Flash Theatre Festival. They should be able to sort you out for £6.
£6. We'll pop all that information on the website as well for you. And yeah, tickets £6 as you say as well. But in terms of the underground spaces, now we've used it. Are you in both of them, or
yes,
or are you in just one of them?
I think Underground 1 and 2 come as a set, don't they? Because there's Underground 1 and 2, then 3 and 4. So I'll be in the whole of 1 and 2.
You get the whole of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And do you know how you're going to set that up yet, or is that going to be a bit of a surprise?
That's going to be a bit of a surprise for you.
We'll just have to see how things come out. Well, that was another interview for Tap the Table Productions as part of the Flash Theatre Festival coverage. We've been speaking to Stephen from Rising Persona, and go and see his show Vallence Road. It certainly whet my appetite.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.